Senator Ludlam.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Digital Economy. Can the Minister explain why he made this statement?
Senator.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Senator for his question, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, we all know the Liberal Party are a pack of cunts, Mr Speaker. I'd go on to say more, Mr Speaker. I'd go on to say more, Mr Speaker, to the House. Mr Speaker, I know all about the Liberal Party, Mr Speaker, that they're a pack of cunts, Mr Speaker, they're a pack of cunts, the Liberal Party. I know, Mr Speaker, I know they're a pack of cunts, Mr Speaker. I used to be one of them. Mr Speaker, and to the Senator, Mr Speaker, Mr Speaker, I'd like to answer the question. Mr Speaker, to the Senator, we all know, Mr Speaker, what we get when we vote for the Liberals, Mr Speaker. We get business policy, Mr Speaker, when we vote for the Liberals. Mr Speaker, we're not here to speak about the Tories. Mr Speaker, I address the Senator. I answer the question to the Senator here, Mr Speaker, and Mr Speaker, what is the Labor Party, Mr Speaker, what is the Labor Party? Here we have, Mr Speaker, here we have a band of misfits, Mr Speaker. We have a band of misfits here that they purport to represent the working class, Mr Speaker. They purport to represent the working class. Mr Speaker, the Labor Party, Mr Speaker, the Labor Party represents anything but the working class, Mr Speaker. They don't know who they represent, do they, Mr Speaker? Howard Light, Mr Speaker. Here we have a motley bunch, Mr Speaker. They purport to represent the working class, Mr Speaker, but who do they represent? Well, that's the question, Mr Speaker, and I look at the entire House when I say this, Mr Speaker. I look at the entire House, and Mr Speaker, the whole House can see the veracity of the Labor Party on display here, Mr Speaker. They can see it right here in this paper, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, the Liberal Party, yes, they're a pack of cunts, Mr Speaker, but in addressing the Labor Party itself, Mr Speaker, have you ever heard such rubbish, Mr Speaker? The Liberal Party, they're a bunch of pizzle-snivelling pricks, Mr Speaker. Well, we know this, the whole House can see this on display, Mr Speaker. And who is the lesser evil, Mr Speaker? It's not the Labor Party, Mr Speaker. We have the Liberal Party, as I've said, Mr Speaker. A pack of cunts. A pack of cunts, Mr Speaker. But the Labor Party here, they purport to represent the working class, but they're not. They're a motley bunch, Mr Speaker. They're a motley bunch. And, yes, Mr Speaker, yes. The Liberal Party, they're a pack of cunts, Mr Speaker. You know, well, I know this, Mr Speaker. I speak for myself. I speak to the entire House when I say this. And which is the lesser evil, Mr Speaker? Is it the people that purport to represent the working class, Mr Speaker, or is it the cunts of the Liberal Party? Oh, don't get me started, Mr Speaker, on the third range party here, Mr Speaker. Don't get me started. I used to be part of one, I was part of the other, the third one. I was around the whole fucking thing, Mr Speaker. But which is the lesser evil? Well, we asked that question. We asked the Liberal Party, we asked the Labor Party, we asked the rest of the House, Mr Speaker, whoever's lying around on their backsides. The Labor movement, Mr Speaker, the Labor movement and the Liberals, Mr Speaker. The Labor movement itself is shunned by the Labor Party. They purport to represent the working class, Mr Speaker, but do they really, Mr Speaker? Are they the lesser evil? Well, I would suggest not, Mr Speaker. I would suggest not. And, Mr Speaker, the Labor movement and the Liberals, Mr Speaker, who let me get this started. Let me just get this straight, Mr Speaker. The Labor movement, Mr Speaker, the trivialisation of the working class, Mr Speaker, the trivialisation of the working class. And,
time has expired. Senator Ludlam.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank the Minister for his attempt to answer the question. Of the supplementary in two parts, if I may. Will the Minister be providing a retraction?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And yes, I thank the Senator for his question. Mr Speaker, I thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member, I thank the question, and I thank the entire. Thank you, Mr Speaker.